today. Let's start by chanting the Mangala Charanam of Vivekachudamani. Sarva Vedanta Siddhanta Gocharam Tamagocharam Govindam Paramanandam Satgurum Pranatosmyaham Satgurum Pranatosmyaham. So today we take up a new topic. Last couple of times we looked at what is the nature of this bondage, and therefore what's the nature of this liberation. How does that come about in my life? And what are those steps that get me there? We saw in a nutshell how knowledge is what gets me liberation. Now here, we're going to take one step back to look at what are those qualifications I need before I embark on this path. What are those qualifications? And right away, we would find that that's not something that sits well with us. The reason being, we'd say, it's not like every path in life needs qualifications. The spiritual path is meant for everyone. Why is there some kind of gatekeeping process where if you want the fruits of what this path is, you must follow certain things? That seems like gatekeeping. It seems like it's judging me, saying until I meet some criteria laid out by someone or something or some book, I have no chance at reaching the goal of liberation. And on one hand, we say Bhagavan loves me, has my best interest in mind. And on the other hand, we're saying even to get this knowledge, I need to be qualified. So naturally, this objection is, who needs qualifications? Doesn't sound right. Furthermore, another reason is we find when it comes to spiritual growth, this is a highly personal thing. Me and my Bhagavan, that relationship is just between both of us. Who is anyone else or anything else to say you must cultivate certain qualities before you take the step in relationship with Bhagavan? Now, this again is where surrender is needed. Without surrender, I will never take any advice, especially when it comes to being on a spiritual path. Because there are things in the Vyavaharic world, transactional world that I go through, I'm not willing to take people's advice because I say, I see, hear, taste things on my own, I know how the world works, I will make these choices. And what to talk of a path where it's completely abstract in the very beginning, yearning for some goal that I don't totally understand. And if I don't have that humility to say that, okay, there is a path that's recommended, I should take it, there is no growth for me. And the way we can see this is the nature of our questions. Where people say, oh, why do I have to listen to this book? Why? Spirituality is a personal thing, that growth happens on its own. Really? When does any kind of growth happen on its own? I find myself out of shape because I've eaten too much during Navaratri time and very little exercise. And I say, I'm not going to work at this to reduce my weight. Things will just unfold as they are. I'll just keep doing what I'm doing. What kind of stupid logic is that? Yet with spirituality, we want to give that logic. Where I'm not going to abide by any kind of guidelines. I'm not going to do anything because that's oppressive and repressive and any other missive you can think of. That's a personal thing I have to do on my own. And so the question will come up again and again. Why Bhagavan? Why can't I just say that I live good values and I live a good life? Why does Bhagavan have to be in this equation? Or why do I need to do certain things that make me uncomfortable? Again, there is no growth without discomfort. First sign that I'm growing is, am I going through something uncomfortable? Am I learning, changing, evolving in that process? That's the first telltale sign that there is some growth happening. So the first shloka of the day then, we look at the 18th shloka. We left off at 17 last time, talking about questioning of this the perfect disciple. Now we go into the nitty-gritty now of what exactly are these qualifications. Sadhanan yatra chatvari kathitani manishibhihi yeshu satsveva sannishta yad abhave na siddhyati. Yad abhave na siddhyati. Without this fourfold qualification, coming in 4 distinct parts. Without it, liberation is not even a possibility, because this is the very groundwork for all of that to happen. Now, what's the first quality that we see here? First quality is Viveka. First qualification. Vivekachudamani, an exploration into this very Viveka, is what this entire text is about. Shloka number 20. Brahma satyam jagan mithyeti evam rupo vinishchayah soyam nitya nitya vastu viveka samudahritah. Now, it first starts with, what do I need? Vinishchayah, a firm, solid conviction. That conviction that is not shaken by events that happen in my life. That conviction that is not shaken by hypotheticals that are thrown at me. That conviction that endures despite any kind of dips in emotion or inspiration. Do I have that kind of conviction in anything? Is there something I believe in so firmly that I will say no other information or viewpoint that goes against this I will ever entertain? If I have to have that kind of conviction about something, I must fully logically understand it. I must have reliance on the source that it comes from. And I must experience it for myself as well. That is the only way that conviction takes root. Now, what is this conviction about? The fact that I need to know very firmly that there is a reality and there is everything else that is unreality. That reality is that one substratum Brahman alone. That's Viveka. Now, the word that is used in Sanskritam, Viveka, translates to discrimination. I know that's taken on a different tenor, so I'm going to use the word discretion here. Like a swan that so easily separates water from milk, like no other being can, I have to separate what is real from what is unreal. Now here, definitions matter. Whenever we look at any kind of analysis in Sanatana Dharma, we can never go by statements of I feel or, in my mind. What are the definitions we're going by? So that we're on the same page, so that we're not contradicting ourselves constantly, what are the definitions that we're going by? And if we look at Srimad Bhagavad Gita, 2nd chapter, 16 shloka, Bhagavan Krishna clearly lays out what is real and what is unreal. He says that which is real is present in all 3 periods of time, past, present, and future. That entity, there is no time where it did not exist. There is no time in the future where it will not exist. That's the definition. Now, point me to something in this world that meets that definition of real. Everything from the objects of the world, they have a date of manufacture and a date of disintegration. My very body has a date of birth and a date of death to it. And everything in between, there is nothing I can point to in this world that I can say, this is a real entity based on that definition. Therefore, naturally, this world is unreal. But Haribhai, I'm experiencing it. I taste food, I see things, I feel things, I hear things. How can you say it's unreal? We'll get to that. But as a baseline first, can I accept this definition? Let's go logically into the definition then to see. Imagine waves in an ocean. The wave rises out of the ocean, has a crest, highest point that it comes to, and then falls back into that ocean. When it's in that ocean, before it takes the identity of the wave, we call it water. When it goes back to falling into the ocean, again, we call it water. In that one momentary transient point where it assumes the form of that wave that's frothing and rising up, we give it the moniker of a wave. Can we say it's not water at that point? It is water. It's not that it was water before, became a wave, which is completely different from water, then went back to being water again. That is impossible. We give it a name based on some seeming form, which only lasts for a second. Same thing with this world. Everything rises from that indivisible reality, that Brahman. This world is here just momentarily. Every moment is birthed and dies right away. Right now, it's 6:14 p.m. on September 28th, 2025, in like 32 seconds. That moment just went away, never to come back again. Like that, this entire creation is nothing but a momentary blip. And the very fact that we call it a timeline, that itself is even a construct that we've made. Reality has no idea of that. But again, it still persists. I perceive this world. How can it be false? Again, the very instrument I'm using to perceive this seemingly real world, that instrument itself is an illusion to begin with. That is not reality. So the entire point of this text, which goes for 581 shlokas, is for me to have that firm and full and unshakable conviction that I understand what reality is, I understand what unreality is. Let me see that reality as my true identity. That's all this text is. Simple. That's all it is. 581 shlokas dedicated just to this endeavor. Now it's our welcome to Vivekachudamani. So that's that discretion. That's the first qualification that's needed. Now, what are those auxiliary qualifications? Shloka number 21 we'll look at now. Tadvairagyam jihasaya darshana shravanadibihi dehadi brahma paryante hyanitye bhogavastuni. Bhogavastuni, objects of enjoyment. That is our comfort zone. We enjoy things in the world. Objects, relations, memories even of enjoying certain things, that can even weigh in my mind. These are all things we enjoy a lot. Now, jihasa. Jihasa is that desire to give all of that up. Why would we do that? Imagine you wake up in the morning, you haven't slept all the night before because there was a thunderstorm or something like that. But it's a Sunday morning, gotta go to Balvihar, gotta teach, gotta be attentive there. And so you have to have that first cup of coffee. The first of several, maybe, depending on how much sleep you did not get. But until that cup of coffee is inside you, you don't feel like yourself. You feel irritable. You feel like your head is spinning. That first cup of coffee is what puts you on track. That's what makes the engine go. Until then, you don't feel good at all. Now imagine giving that up. That's torture. Something that I need, not just pleasure, something that I need to thrive. How can that be taken away from me? That's the very first step of Vairagya. What is the difference between a need and a want? What are those things that are absolute essentials I must have in my life? Non-negotiable, that my very existence depends on these things. That's one bucket. The other bucket is, what are those things that are nice to have that I want? I don't necessarily need these things for my survival, but they're things that I want. Talking about Vairagya is a useless discussion unless this is clear in my mind. Difference between what a need and a want is. And oftentimes priorities go out of whack because I mix up the two. What do I need? What do I want? And because the level it's taking me to, what Vairagya is demanding is darshana shravanadibihi. Anything that I see, taste, touch, smell, hear, anything, all of those I cannot be attached to. Now, what is attachment? That'll come up later on. We'll see the explanation of that later as well. how does that play out in our own lives then? We see be detached, look inward, all these recommendations siddhantas are given. What does that actually mean? What Shastra is demanding of me here is Dehadi Brahma Paryante. Everything from my own body, all the way to being in the role of Brahmaji, the creator himself, I should have Vairagya towards that and everything in between. Anything I can imagine. Beyond my wildest dreams. In Star Wars, when Han Solo wants to buy the Millennium Falcon, and he's told that he can get ultimate riches with that. The guy says, you can be richer than your wildest dreams. And Han Solo tells him, I can dream a lot, actually. So our wildest dreams go beyond our even capacity. It's saying even have Vairagya from that. How hard is it to be detached that way? So anything in this world that is fleeting, which is this entire world, I must have that detachment from. Now, for people that don't have much, it's easier to cultivate that Vairagya than the people that do have something. That's why, for ultimate Vairagya, sannyasa is that path that's recommended. And that too as soon as possible, so that there is no more taste of the world that I keep leeching on. For the one that does not possess anything, there is no more temptation because there's no avenue. For the one that has something and has to give up things one by one, that is a Herculean effort. And because I've refused to give these things up, I take birth after birth after birth. Here I am in Kali Yuga today. It's my own doing. So what's the mindset to cultivate then? Because Vairagya cannot be performative. It's not that usually during Navaratri I have 9 sweets a night. Today though, Vairagya, only 8 sweets I'm going to have. It doesn't work that way. What level am I giving things up on? And is it just at a physical level or mental level as well? You look at the 2 classic shlokas in Srimad Bhagavad Gita, 2nd chapter. Talks about the fall of man. Dhyayato Vishayan Pumsaha is how it begins. Dhyayataha, dhyana, meditation on what? Vishayaha, objects of the world. By who? Pumsaha. Pumsaha is not just someone like you and me, beginner in this path. Pumsaha is that person who has been fortified by sadhana, has clarity through vichara, has that firm conviction of what the truth is. That person even falls in the face of objects of the world. Then you and I don't stand a chance, it seems. So it's Vairagya on that highest level. Of nothing will turn me into wanting this world. Now, you're thinking, Hari Bhai, that's pretty abstract, pretty unrealistic. We all lead lives where, forget coffee. We need certain things, and we do mistake them wants for needs, but we're happier that way. Happiness has to come into question here as well. Is it that my understanding of happiness is what makes my body, mind, intellect happy is happiness? Or is it something beyond that? Because there's one term in Sanskritam, alpa buddhi. Alpa buddhi means narrow-minded. For me, in my narrow-mindedness, if my body, mind, and intellect are pampered and happy, I think that I'm happy. I will refuse to come out of those layers. If I refuse to come out of those layers and I stay right there, saying I will not move past this, I cannot dare call myself a Vedantin. There's no way I can do that. First step to saying I'm a Vedantin is I don't just want the happiness that lies at this level, I want something more than that. And there'll definitely be growing pains to get to that point by dismissing these layers and not pampering them. That is part of that sacrifice. That is Vairagya in a nutshell. So at which point am I willing to stop at for happiness? Am I saying this kind of happiness is enough? I don't need more than this. It's like when you go to Las Vegas in these big casinos, there's tiers of restaurants that are there. Your lowest tier restaurants are like what you find outside, your McDonald's, your Taco Bell. It'll be in some basement down there where you go at 3 a.m. after you've lost all your money and all you have is enough for Taco Bell, right? That's one layer of restaurants there. Next layer is a bit higher. Those sit-down places that you may have seen in some guidebook or something like that. You have to make a reservation. They don't just take walk-ins. Next layer is the type where if you're not wearing a blazer or a dress or something, they don't even let you in. Same casino. They don't even let you in there. That's like highest level right there. Where nothing on the menu is in single digits. Not a drink, not a food item, not a side item, nothing. Everything is at least double digits in there, if not triple digits, for the cost of everything. So layers, tiers there are of these restaurants. Imagine you're in that Taco Bell type basement area and you're eating. Someone comes and says, hey, all expenses paid, I can get you into that third tier, highest tier restaurant. And you're like, nah, man, I have my bean burrito here. With cheese that's been manufactured with plastic, with this tortilla that's been sitting in the fridge for probably a year or so, now it's just been heated. I'm fine with this. I'm happy. Does it fill my stomach? Yeah, if I eat a few of those tacos, it'll fill my stomach. Does it even taste good? Yeah, I admit, yeah, it does taste good. But that's the happiness level that I'm at. Someone is promising me that highest restaurant level of happiness. And I say, I'm fine with this. You would call me a fool for doing that, wouldn't you? Same thing with Vairagya right here. The happiness I have at this lowest layer right now, I think that is everything, and I am so content with it. Even if someone says there's some other happiness that remains elsewhere, I refuse to believe that, first of all. Second of all, I fear leaving this comfort to go into some kind of unknown. That's even compounded by the fact that the recommendation given is give up everything that causes you happiness at this level. There is something higher that you can achieve. That takes a courage to go after. That courage only a Vedantin can have, no one else. There is no other religion, no other philosophy in the world that requires this kind of daring courage. To say that some entity is the ultimate, I surrender to that entity, all my sins are absolved, that's easy. There's not much logic associated with that. That is very easy to do. This, however, cultivating this kind of Vairagya is nearly impossible, it seems. And so the question comes in now. There's a fear or despondency that sets in. I'm a beginner sadhaka right now, and for an advanced sadhaka, is this the only way going forward? And the natural supposition that comes from that is, I feel like I'm not even qualified to take this first step into this kind of study. What the heck am I even doing here? Is it a fruitless endeavor that I'm going on? Now, that question arises because I see myself only in this lifetime in this body. I see myself as only Hari Chaitanya. I have to see myself as a jiva that's lived many, many lives. Where this life, even if not gaining that full Vairagya, how much of a dent can I make and take advantage of this human life? How much can I do? Because at a certain point, despondency does set in. That, hey, Haribhai, I'm in my 50s and 60s, what Vairagya at this point, I'm set in my ways. Okay, you're realistic about it, cool. At the same time, how much more progress can you make? Because liberation, in some ways, is a zero-sum game. Either you're liberated or you're not. At the same time, there's incremental progress that can be made for that liberation. And if I'm running a race and I say, hey, there's no way I'm going to finish this race, so I'm just going to sit down here and not even run anymore. I mean, what kind of a letdown is that? So easily I can say, okay, I don't think it's in the cards for me to gain this kind of Vairagya, therefore let me not even try, let me just enjoy things of the world. That's a cop-out that I can do. I've done that for so many lifetimes, that's why I'm born again right now. I've already played that game. Can I change my game plan this time? Or else, what's the difference between me and the Dallas Cowboys? Running the same plays that make me lose over and over again for an entire season. Then for seasons on end. Then for decades I've been doing the same thing. I'm no different from them. So after this closer look at Vairagya, What's the next point we come to? Again, in this qualifications, this idea of shama arises. Virajya vishayavratat dosha drishtya muhurmuhu svalakshye niyatavastha manasa shama uchyate. Manasaha is the key word right here, of the mind. Shama refers to that tranquil mind that is not going after objects again and again and again. Can I calm this mind down? My mind is that one part of me, no matter how much I try to tame it, it seems like the mind has a mind of its own. It just goes wherever it wants. Do a test. Leave the mind idle. No stimulation. Leave the mind idle and nothing to stimulate, even looking outside at nature, nothing like that. Just close my eyes and sit. What do I think of? Where does my mind naturally rest? How frustrating is it to see where it naturally rests? When I was a kid, I had like terrible teeth. Like it looked like Superman's cave. My teeth would grow in all different directions. I had 2 rounds of retainers, 2 rounds of braces, and I have a permanent retainer that sits at the bottom layer right here. For the rest of my life, there's that metal retainer right there. Now, when they were putting it in, they told me, something's really going to be frustrating for you because the place where we're putting the retainer, that's where your tongue naturally rests. Imagine when you're just sitting there, your tongue naturally rests at the bottom of your teeth right there. And they gave me fair warning. This retainer goes there, you are going to be so frustrated for at least a week or 2. You're going to want to put your tongue where it naturally goes, and you're going to feel so bad. I did. That's right in that spot right there. It just felt out of place. It felt terrible. And that's where your tongue naturally rests. To have to put it somewhere else is like a life-changing thing. I know I sound silly when I'm saying this, but it is such a bother having to change where your tongue even rests. Same thing with this mind. When the mind naturally wants to go into layers of enjoying sense objects, when the mind naturally wants to go into memories of how I enjoyed these things, when the mind naturally feels comfortable going into layers of despondency and self-pity and anger and jealousy and lust, it is so uncomfortable to take that mind that's at rest there and put it somewhere else. Some would say nearly impossible. Shama is that qualification to cultivate so that it is possible for me. Or else, if I just let this mind rest where it wants to because it's comfortable, I will find that there is never any happiness for me. It always takes me to big highs and big and very, very ardent lows. That's what I find myself in. So this mind is like a horse with blinders. Can it tune out everything else, turned away from the senses, and say this mind will be calm? Again, we haven't said what to point the mind at. I never brought anything about dhyana, meditation, none of that. Just saying, can the mind turn away from the senses at least? And as Kathopanishad will tell us, paranchikani, our sense organs, are naturally extroverted, going outwards. That's how they're built. So to change my very nature is part of the process of cultivating these qualifications. Changing my own very nature, which as parents, you know how hard it is to do for your kids. How hard is it to do to myself after I'm well into adulthood? Imagine the growing pains I have to go through there. So that calm mind turned away from the senses, that is that quality of shama that has to be cultivated. Next, after seeing shama, we see something similar. Dhamma is what comes up next, shloka number 23. Vishayebhyah paravartya sthapanam swasvagolake ubhaye shamindriyanam sadamaf parikirtitah bahyanalambanam vrittehe esho paratiruttama. This is one of those rare verses in this text where usually verses are given in either 2 or 4 lines. This is given in 3 lines right here. That's one kind of special meter that Shankaracharya ji employs at certain points. There's always one word that really piques my interest in this. When they're peculiar words you find in Sanskritam, they stick with you. My word here is swasvagolake. I never heard that word until this text. Swasvagolake means respective centers of activity, spheres that my sense organs interact with Vishayas in. So swasvagolake, respective center activity of this sight is the eyes, of smell is the nose. There will never be a time when you can ask me, hey, is it sunny outside? And instead of opening the window or the blinds, I simply look with my eyes closed and yes, it smells like it's sunny outside. We cannot know things that way. There are certain sense organs that are privy to certain aspects of knowledge. Only they can do that. Now, the goal of Dhamma is, Shama is at the mind level. That's why I put emphasis on Manasaha there. Mind level, turning away from these sense objects. Dhamma is physically at the body level. Can I turn away from those sense objects? So that I'm not running after these things. Because as much as my senses are not under my control, where I can't shut my ears and not hear something, the sound does come in. No matter how many great Bose noise-canceling headphones or earplugs, whatever I try to employ, something will get in there, some noise. Even though my senses have that limitation of where they keep bringing things in, thank God that they stay restrained when I try to restrain them. In that, my eyes don't pop out 10 feet and then go somewhere. They're limited, thank God, so that I can rein them in. There's one Surdas Ji's couplet where he says, Bhagavan, thank you for making me blind. He was a blind Santa. Where he said, because I'm blind, I don't have to drink in the sight of anything inferior. All I can do is visualize you. That's the greatest blessing I have. What an attitude, huh? So these sense, or I'm not saying make ourselves blind. I'm not going there. I'm just saying, isn't it great when we can shut down these senses from the sensory places that they go and simply focus on putting them in their own place of activity, what I'm supposed to be doing dharmically. According to Dharma, what am I supposed to look at, not look at? According to Dharma, what am I supposed to taste, not taste? According to Dharma, should I be hearing, not be hearing? This reminds me of those monkey emojis that are there. See no evil, hear no evil, speak no evil, like that. That's what this is pretty much. That's what the point of Dhamma, that self-control, is. But what gets in the way? Like a druggie going through withdrawal symptoms, when I find that I've desisted from certain activity that I feel everyone else is doing, fear of missing out is a disorder that sets in quite heavily for me. Where I feel me not enjoying and me making a choice is one thing. When other people are about enjoying and I'm not, then that hurts even more, doesn't it? And these days, whether it's the WhatsApp updates, or whether it's Instagram, you see what everyone's doing. That adds an extra layer of, that hurts. Here I am stuck in satsang with Hari on a Sunday evening, and you look on your Instagram and some guy went to a Cowboys game, to watch them lose, but some guy went somewhere and did something fun. Fear of missing out is totally there. Where we are afraid, quite literally afraid, to shut ourselves out from all of these things because either I'll miss out on some experience that will be life-changing in some way, or people will judge me and perceive me as not fun or not great because I don't engage in these things. To make it really real, once it comes to middle age, 40s, 50s, 60s, around that time, don't you find that tug of war internally where you're expected to go to different social gatherings, weddings, or engagements, or this or that, and one side of you says, I'm done with all of that, because the same drinks and the same stupid gossip and the same nonsense everywhere, nothing changes. The venue changes and the people being celebrated changes. Besides that, everything else is the same. So one part of you says, I'm done with this, I don't want this. The other part, however, realizes if you don't partake in these kinds of activities, you'll be a social pariah. You'll be seen as insulting those people inviting you. You'll be seen as someone who is weird and doesn't go with the flow of society. What's the solution to this? Sannyasa is one solution. Just kidding. But seriously, that's why there's sannyasa. Even the social obligations fall away at that point when that's taken up. That's for growth of the individual. But on a serious note, this is something I've gotten feedback on that many of you contend with. Especially as we get older and more of our kids are getting married and all of that, that is something. Blessings are needed at these places. But how long do we spend there? That's the thing. Going for merely half an hour, giving our blessings, heading out before all the tamasic activity starts, that's a way to go. That's fine. And if our friends truly understand us and they really are our well-wishers and friends, they will understand the choices that we make. Some people tell me, we're social drinkers, so desisting from those things, we feel bad doing it. Why? People will judge. Let them. Those are the same people. For them, body, mind, intellectual happiness is all that they know. Going for something beyond that is completely foreign to them, there is no way they'll understand. Absolutely no way. So why? Why put myself in that position where I have to feel bad about these things? Let them unfold as they do. If my spiritual quest means some people may ostracize me or see me differently, so be it. Vairagya never said that give up every kind of sense pleasure, but those sense pleasures of friends liking you and things like that, you got to keep that. It doesn't say that anywhere. If it did, we'd find it in this text. So, forget the FOMO. It does not have to make an imprint on me at all. Now, in the 24th shloka, we find ourselves coming to this topic of titiksha, forbearance. Sahanam sarva dukkhanam apratikadapurvakam chinta vilaparahitam satitiksha nigadyate chinta vilaparahitam. No anxiety, no worry. I wish I knew what that felt like. No anxiety, no worry, where there is no pit in the stomach, that feeling that you get of, this is coming up soon. No lamentations of, I shouldn't have done this thing. That seems to be 90% of our life. Either nervous about what's to come or looking back. I gave blood today, and the pulse rate was too high. The person said, okay, here, drink some water. We'll wait 10 minutes. As long as you can get that pulse to around 100, we'll be good. And she says, hey, you seem nervous or something. And I was like, yeah, you're about to stick a needle in my arm, so forgive me. But yes, that does make me a little bit nervous. That's why the pulse rate was going a little bit high. So what is it? That's a small thing. For bigger things, though, forbearance means that tapa does not set in. Apratikara purvakam. There is no struggle to rectify something or to gain revenge or anything. I am simply fine the way I am. Now, titiksha, forbearance, able to handle all these pairs of opposites, it's often taken as being udasina. Like this poor referee right here. Both coaches are unhappy with him, and his expression is just that, zenned out. There's a difference between being indifferent versus being callous. Indifference is, even with that capacity of compassion in my personality, I find that I'm not getting riled up in any situation. I can stay even-minded. On the other hand, when it comes to callousness, that compassion is missing. That's an I don't care attitude. They're different. They look the same at times, but they're different. Now, are there times when anger will set in? Yeah. It happened to me today. In one of our sessions, I noticed there were less people than usual in the parent satsang that's going on. So once I got them starting on a discussion, I walked into the lobby just to walk around a bit. And I see there's 5 gentlemen from that session sitting outside watching the cricket game on their phones. I hit the roof. I didn't scream and throw a tantrum. I wanted to. But my thing was, man, we say come into the sessions right here. Have respect at least that if you're not going to do it and you're going to watch your stupid cricket game, do it outside or in your car or go home and do it. Don't do it in the lobby. Don't desanctify this space that we have right here. Is that the purpose of why we do mission sessions? Like the wall right outside where I'm giving the satsang, you're going to do this right here? Now that momentary, at that point, titiksha having it's based on the rules that we're in. If anger must be expressed to correct someone that's doing something that's not in line with what they should be doing, express that in a way. Softly saying that, hey, this is a sanctified space, please don't. That's not going to work then. There needs to be a show of some kind of anger to get that point across to people when they don't have the sense to do the right thing. However, that forbearance is also how personally do I take certain things. If that eats away at me hours and days later, I'm only hurting myself. Showing a response for a purpose in the role that I'm in, whether it's a parent, a guide, a mentor, and then letting that go because there's a purpose to what I did, now that purpose has ended. Titiksha is understanding what that level of forbearance is. Not to be doormats, not to have people walk all over us, to stand up for what's right when necessary, at the same time not getting affected by these various oscillations of the world. True forbearance. Then the next quality that we come to here, 25th shloka, is Shraddha, the one I really wanted to get to today. And you may feel I'm rushing through these shlokas, not giving much explanation. My point of these teacher satsangs is to give you a full, broad overview of what this text is, and honing in on specific parts. Now, for a fuller, longer thing, Puja Gurudev's lectures are online of Vivekachudamani. Puja Guruji's, Mukhya Swamiji, Swami Sarveshananji's are on our YouTube channel, CMDFW. These are all those resources that go much more in depth. What I'm trying to do here is provide us a holistic view. Understand from this level of qualification, by the end of the school year, we need to understand what the culmination of all of this is. It's to give us a taste of that. So personal reflection will be needed. Going to these other, amazing acharyas to listen to them is needed. This is just one way of presenting that to us. 25th shloka. Shastrasya guruvakyasya satya buddhyavadharana sa shraddha kathita sadbhihi yaya vastu palabhyate. Shraddha. The limitations of the English language mean that we have to translate our Sanskritam terms to the nearest English translation that fits. For that reason, Shraddha is translated as faith. Now, a lot of these words that are used in the religious sphere, many of them in English have an Abrahamic lens that they're seen through, naturally. From the Abrahamic lens, from the Abrahamic lens, the word faith means belief in something without proof. That is faith. I have conviction, or I have logical evidence to show that I will drive from here to the airport and there will not be a traffic jam, or there will not be an accident or something like that. I have faith that that won't happen, however. Logic can be there, that can be fallible. Faith can also be fallible, but it's something that I don't know for sure. Here, what is Shraddha? It's not blind faith. It's not simply believing something because I have to. Here, Shraddha refers to two things. Understanding the exact import of what the Shastra says and what the Guru says. That's so important to see in Sanatana Dharma. It's not one or the other. If you're ever sitting in a satsang somewhere, and the person speaking says, don't read Shastra, the Sanskritam language and all that just muddles your mind, simply focus on that inner experience that I'm talking about. That is realization. Get up. Don't even wait to get your shoes. Get up. Run out of there as fast as you can. You're being spiritually swindled at that point. A teacher that does not go by the Shastra, dismisses the scriptures and says these are not true, I'm a guru teaching, that is not a guru at all. Shastra must be upheld. Puja Gurudev exemplified that perfectly. Anytime he would give a lecture, he would require every student to have the book with them. Not for book sale purposes. To say that don't believe everything just because I'm saying it and you have that firm conviction in what I say, Believe it because the Shastra says so. How the question comes out. Hey, Haribai, there's English translations of all these for free online as well. Why do we need a guru? Gurudev was asked that question. If I have the books and the translations and all of this, why do I need you as a guru? Gurudev said in his great, great style, go and ask the book that question and see what it says. Meaning, when there are doubts, when going through this Shastra that seems cryptic sometimes, if I'm not fully understanding what's being said or I have further questions, the Guru is where I must go. The Guru is the living embodiment of that Shastra. When we chant Puja Gurudev's 108 names, Ashtottara Shatanamavalihi, this is not just some hyperbole or something done to please him. No. These are true. Om Deha Atitaya Namaha. Deha Atita, the one beyond the body. 18% of his heart working, legs don't even move, gives 4 hours of lectures a day in that state. Deha Atita indeed. Guna Atitaya Namaha. Guna Atita. Beyond these 3 gunas. Never giving in to Rajas and Tamas, even in moments of high intensity or in ill health. Not even sticking with just Sattva, but taking himself beyond all of that. That was Puja Gurudev. Dharma Samsthapakaya Namaha. Not just hyperbole. Establishing dharma wherever it was needed, even if that means going against popular opinions, even if that means being criticized for what he's saying, dharma is the ultimate for him. Guru is the embodiment of Shastra. The perfection that the Shastra talks about, that we see in a valid true Guru. That Guru that has this experience of this highest reality, and that Guru who has systematically gone through the Shastra. What's so sad to see in this day and age is, we'll dismiss those Gurus that have learned in ashramas at the feet of masters, have gone through Shastra word by word. We'll say, that's boring. But those people that have flashy YouTube videos and come out with some kind of new age understanding, we'll pass that on WhatsApp and we say, this is so revolutionary, so amazing, so logical, so this. Just because someone can string a few English sentences together, make it sound logical, and dismiss Shastra in the process, does not make them a guru. If our pleasure that we seek comes in only that BMI level, take those people as gurus then. Bloviate their egos, make them seem better than they are, share their stuff, patronize them, do everything. Enjoy. But if we want something that's more, something that takes us out of our apathy, something that's not just reaffirming what we already believe, but helps us grow through correction, then a true guru is where we have to go. You look at Bhagavan Sri Adi Shankaracharyaji's way of establishing the guru system even, it's wonderful to see. There's one kind of system called the Dashanami Sannyasa system that Bhagavan Sri Adi Shankaracharyaji set up. Where you look at any of the names we have of sannyasis in these 10 orders, there's a suffix to each of the names. Swami Chinmayananda Saraswati Ji. Swami Tejomayananda Saraswati. Swarupananda Saraswati, Sarveshananda Saraswati. This is, in our lineage, Saraswati is that suffix. Like that, there are 9 more suffixes. Each of these lineages serve a role in society. There's one called Tirtha. Tirtha is a spiritual pilgrimage area. As you saw in the special topic video today, for those of you teaching 7th and above, when invaders came and destroyed entire villages, breaking down temples, there's no Hinduism there. Without taking a Tirthayatra, some of these people had no connection to the religion. Those sannyasis that maintain these pilgrimages have that suffix of Tirtha. That's what their lineage is about. Another type of suffix is Puri. Puri refers to the cities. In the cities, are there institutions where people can learn this knowledge? Is there a way that the local entities that are governing are giving a space for these people to teach and learn? The Puri Sampradaya, they take care of things like that. Giri. Giri, that suffix, those lineages established in the mountains. For those renunciates, they take care of them. For those that want to remove themselves completely, one other suffix of the 10, ashrama, where in a seminary-like facility, where cut off from everything else, it is purely focused on producing more missionaries. That's one lineage focused solely on that. And then Saraswati. Saraswati is the R&D department for all of this. Saraswati lineage focuses on this knowledge has to be packaged in a different way to meet the needs of the generation. How is it going to be packaged in this generation? For Gurudev's generation work, that meant teaching in the English language. That meant using media apparatuses like videos. That meant writing in the English language and disseminating. Saraswati, that's the lineage that does that. So the irony here is, given that sannyasis are renouncing everything in the world, through this system by Adi Shankaracharya ji, aren't they actually supporting the world in what they're doing? Saving the world through renunciation. What a concept. My point here being, Guru is not just some fickle thing in our sampradaya. It means something very specific, and especially in our Advaita sampradaya, the way it's been set up of what a guru is, wonderful to see. Which is why in our lineage here, Pujya Gurudev is my guru and your guru. No other Swami or Brahmachari in Chinmaya Mission is your guru. Pujya Gurudev, your guru, my guru, our guru. So with that, happy Navaratri to everybody. Wednesday, we'll be celebrating our Vijayadashami Puja. So we'll have that on Wednesday. Please do attend in Saket if you can, 7:30. Any other remaining questions here, I'll handle at the beginning of class next time. Om Purnamadav Purnamidam Purnat Purnamudachyate Purnasya Purnamadaya Purnameva Vashishyate Om Shanti 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 Harihi Om Shri Gurubhyo Namaha Harihi Om. Hari Om, everybody.